Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cynder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits, so get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Sharon Allen, and Sharon is co-founder and CEO of World Telehealth Initiative. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Gosh, I am just dying to hear all about what you're doing. I mean, it's all over the world. And telehealth, everybody, or at least a lot of people, certainly me, I wonder, how do they do that anyway? So how do they do that and all over the world? So please tell us about the World Telehealth Initiative.
I'd love to. And maybe it's best if I start with a story that kind of exemplifies why we started. I'll pull one, there's so many stories, but I'll pull one from northern Argentina where it's very rural, it's largely an indigenous population. And this was over a year ago, but the hospital admitted a 3-year-old boy, and he was complaining about losing the loss of his limbs. He was starting to move with great difficulty. So of course his parents were very concerned. So the doctors immediately got to work and doing various tests, and they ruled out like spider bite or toxin. And then he was deteriorating rapidly. And so they had to put him on a ventilator. He needed breathing assistance. It was going downhill fast. And they were out of options. They didn't know what else to do. So they knew they needed to speak to a neurologist. Luckily, they partner with World Telehealth Initiative, or WTI, and so we were able to immediately connect them to a neurologist. And he looked at the images that they had taken on site, and he could detect very small lesions on the nerves, which is a condition that will lead to paralysis and potentially worse. So with his trained eye of a neurologist, he was able to prescribe 2 medications that were given intravenously. Julian, 3 years old, is back with his family, playing with his siblings as a 3-year-old should. So that's just one example of how.
So how do they connect with this neurologist?
Good question. So the mission of World Telehealth Initiative is to provide sustainable expertise to vulnerable communities throughout the world, always with an eye of upskilling local providers and enabling them to provide advanced health services to their community. And the way we do that, we have a network of over 1,500 volunteer healthcare providers that beam into our partner sites, which are low-resource clinics and hospitals, and they beam in through the state-of-the-art telehealth technology. And then it's as if they're in the room with their colleague that's with the patient. So in this case, as I mentioned, they were reviewing images that had been taken at that hospital.
Okay.
And with this, the technology can zoom like 26 times, or even more capability is you can connect peripheral devices with into the virtual care device, which is like a robotic device, about the size of a human, where the provider's head and shoulders, show to the patient and the provider on the other side. But these devices can attach to an ultrasound. So a volunteer provider, maybe in the US, maybe Europe, anywhere in the world, can see that image. Maybe it's a fetal distress situation. And they can see through their computer exactly what's going on with that ultrasound, and they dialogue with the on-site provider to establish, maybe a diagnosis and a care protocol. So it's as if these world experts from anywhere in the world are right there in the room with the local provider, helping them determine the best care plan for their patients.
That is amazing. So
Yeah.
is it sort of like Zoom on steroids or something?
Some people liken it to, other Zoom type platforms, but it is above and beyond
I'm sure,
steroids.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's purpose-built medical grade equipment. Like if you plug a stethoscope into that, if I beamed in, I could hear heart sounds or lung sounds or bowel sounds. We're doing this incredible POCUS training, which is point of care ultrasound, which many of our sites use ultrasound primarily for OBGYN cases. But now, like in the United States, ultrasound has become kind of a diagnostic tool of choice, and you can detect, pneumonia or a detached retina or internal bleeding. So our sites typically don't have lots of diagnostic equipment, but there's a very affordable handheld probe that you could do with ultrasound. So now our partners are going to train this, how to get the imaging that helps reach a diagnosis to our low resource clinics and hospitals. And again, thereby just advancing the healthcare that's available to those communities.
That's amazing. And so you've been doing this for a few years, huh?
We started in 2017. It was launched. The co-founder, Dr. Yulin Wang, was the founder of InTouch Health. And so they manufacture and provided the technology to US hospitals and health systems. Oh. And so he really had a vision of what the technology enabled, but knowing that it was very advanced and there was a relatively high cost to it, he thought, how can we do this on a nonprofit basis? And that's when he and I intersected and really launched this with the technology donated initially by InTouch Health, and now they've merged with Teledoc Health, so they support us with the technology. So it's interesting. So they provide the technology for free, and then medical specialists of over 50 different specialties and subspecialties are donating their time and expertise. So all of that is leveraged, and then we have a small team that enables all of this to get the right care to the right place in the world at the right time.
That is absolutely amazing.
It's pretty cool.
So how did you get connected with this doctor? What's your background? How did that happen?
So I had been the CEO of a for-profit company for several years, and it was wonderful in so many ways, but it was time to, as David Brooks, the author, says, climb my second mountain and do something else. And so I was looking in the nonprofit arena, and I was introduced to Dr. Wang, and just knowing that the pieces were there, so we knew we could get volunteer physicians, we had the technology, so if the pieces are there to address global healthcare access, and nobody was doing it in the way that we could do it. So it was kind of a no-brainer at that point. This is what I meant to do, and here we are. Now we're in over 50 different places in the world, and there's half of the world actually doesn't have adequate healthcare access. So our target market is rather large, and we have lots of work to do, and are really excited to do it as we see more and more success. I will mention one quick thing, so we started with a spreadsheet, and does this work? We connected a few doctors to a few sites, and it was great. But now and we've only grown through word of mouth, so lots of hospitals and clinics are saying, I need, healthcare expertise. And so knowing we had to do it at a much larger scale to make a larger impact, we now are building a platform. You could think of it like Uber or Airbnb. A clinic or hospital anywhere in the world may say, I need somebody to help me. I think this is an ectopic pregnancy. What do I do? So that goes out according to the algorithm that we've developed into our platform that says here's this OBGYN and this one's not available on Saturdays, but this one is, and one is actually diaspora of Haiti where the request is coming from. So it matches the appropriate provider to the requested need wherever it is in the world, and that connection then can be made via telehealth.
That is astonishing.
Yeah.
So technology just makes all this possible, and the imagination of you and your co-founder.
Technology is a change maker in this situation. It is cutting edge, and combining the telehealth technology with this platform is really an incredible, innovative model that we've developed.
Gosh, I just have so many questions just zooming around in my head. So is anybody else in the country, the world, doing something like this?
So that's interesting that you ask. When Yulin was, sharing his idea, and so my first thought was, who can we partner with to do this? But the fact is, there wasn't anybody doing it, because really the technology is very high end and very expensive. So unless you have a relationship, and have a donor of this technology, it would be cost prohibitive. And then, just as, I speak at a lot of global healthcare conferences, and just as, physicians and nurses, heard about this and came flocking to it. There was a study out of UCLA that found that 80% of healthcare providers want to engage in humanitarian healthcare, but it's not always easy. Medical missions, where you'd have to, clear your calendar and get on a plane and get vaccination. That's a barrier for most providers. But with this, they simply open their computer for an hour in the evening, beam into Bangladesh, consult with their colleague on the other side about maybe 3 or 4 patients, close it, go to bed, and they've just made a huge difference in the lives of not only the patients, but that provider on the other side that is getting increased training and knows that they have support at any time. So it's pretty remarkable.
Gosh. So I think I read on your website that you also do training. Intentional
Absolutely.
Training.
That's right. There's 4 basic applications of how we engage with our partners. And one of them is simply training. It could be one-to-one, where maybe the provider in Bangladesh says, this is what happened last night, this is what I did, this was the outcome, what would you do differently? And so it's a one-on-one mentorship. Sometimes we do it where it's one-to-many, where a provider beams in, gives a lecture, they're in the device, and they're engaging with the learners. And their deck may be, on a big screen. So that's, training. We also do scheduled clinical consultations, where the site knows Tuesday at 10 a.m., I will have an infectious disease expert with me. Anybody needing that care through the course of the week is scheduled at that time, so they can collaborate together. And then we also do, I will mention that all of our programs are designed by our site partners. So we're simply there to address their needs. So some of our programs may have a novice surgeon, and it's difficult once they have a position. It's difficult oftentimes for them to go and get advanced training and to be able to grow in their profession. So we bring that training bedside while they're doing a case that may be a little more complicated, or they want a little more confidence. We have an expert surgeon beam in over their shoulder, zoom in on the surgical field, and it's as if their mentor is in the room, coaching them, helping them. So that 3, and then the last one is emergent care, and that's exemplified by little Julian, where they need somebody fast, and it could be life-threatening. So those are the 4 basic ways that we engage.
Golly.
Yeah.
To have grown and developed so quickly, that's not that many years.
It's funny.
Just amazing.
It has. What we're doing is incredible. I always kind of take the lens of looking at what's ahead of us, and it's a lot. But we have to remind ourselves to look behind and how much we've accomplished and how many lives we've affected. And so thank you for recognizing that.
So what does lie ahead for you?
Oh, so much. So the platform is under development. It's more and more features are coming online. But we're really pushing on that because that is the tool that can transform global healthcare. We can, right now we have 1,500 providers. We, anticipate having 100,000 providers and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clinics and hospitals that we're supporting. And we can do that. So that's what lies ahead. We can and we will.
Gosh, yeah, I can see this taking off like wildfire for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of our first programs was in Bangladesh, just as the Rohingya refugees were crossing the border. And as you could imagine, from that journey, lots of, issues and conditions. And the closest established medical facility was a maternal hospital, so OBGYNs and GPs. But all these people in great need were coming to their door. So we were able to beam in cardiology, internal medicine, OBGYN, pediatrics, you name it. So those general practitioners can really serve a great range of the population that was before them. And then they opened the camps, for the refugees, and then there was a hospital and they had internet. And so we have a program in the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh, and we maintain the one outside of it. And they actually even hired another equivalent to a general practitioner to channel all this expertise that was available to this very vulnerable community. So as you can see, I mean, the benefits and the opportunity is really enormous.
Oh boy. And so World Telehealth Initiative is a nonprofit, 501c3, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And so I'll bet if a person goes on your website, they can find a donate now button and make a tax-deductible financial donation.
You're absolutely right. It's big, it's red, it's in the right-hand corner, and I will say we exist through donations. So we have a wonderful community of supporters, and we want and need to expand that so we can continue reaching more and more vulnerable people. And so we invite everyone to join us in that effort.
And your office, your headquarters is in Goleta, is that right?
That's right. At the previous, In Touch Health offices.
Yeah. So he's sharing everything, including
That's
his
right.
office.
That's exactly right.
Gosh, and so on the website then, I would imagine a person could also find out more about volunteering as a medical professional?
Yes. So all of our providers are doing this on a volunteer basis.
That's
so
amazing.
we, like I said, I mean, we have over 50 different medical specialties and subspecialties represented. And we encourage everyone to register and train on the technology. Everyone gets like a brief live simulation training. So when they're called to serve in Ethiopia or answer a question, they press a couple buttons on their computer and boom, they're there. And ideally the technology melts away and it's colleague to colleague, sharing knowledge. So we have several programs in Ukraine, and we had a practitioner out of Florida say, do you ever need like heart transplant specialists? And I said, we have not been asked for that before, but I would encourage you to register and train. We don't know what all the needs will be coming to us. It was like less than 6 weeks later, Ukraine says, you don't have a heart transplant specialist, do you? And it's like, lo and behold, we do. So with that, we encourage all providers to register and train with World Telehealth Initiative.
Golly. And I know that you work with Cottage and other providers here in this community.
That's absolutely right. So Cottage, we have a special relationship with them, and we're doing kind of a wholesale program where we roll this out to all of their providers and make it very easy for them to onboard. We also share stories with them, and they, we have some incredible providers from Cottage that are doing this work, and it's special relationship.
Gosh, Sharon, what an amazing story, and what wonderful work you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing it with us and for starting it, co-founding it. Gosh.
Thank you so much for having me. Of course, I love to talk about it. It's been my pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.